So, often one of the questions we get asked Bella+Duke is what would a human species specific diet look like? I.e., can Bella+Duke make my food because my dog eats better than me? So we thought, we often talk about our little fluffy friends, and I thought, with all your wisdom and experience in the human world, I thought it's actually with us chatting about it from the human.
And why on earth not? This is awesome. So, Mark Scott, thank you for being a powerful forceful positive on this. Does your dog eat better than you do? So, shall we break this down into some little digestible chunks?
Yeah, so I thought what we'd do is we'd talk about, let's give you a little bit of history about Bella+Duke and why we are and how Rowan and I met. So, some of you may or may not know that. So I was running about 6 different businesses up to about 4 years ago. I was actually 17.5 stone. I was really good at smoking and drinking and totally stressed to the ball, and I just hit a brick wall. I just couldn't handle it. I'd be waking up in the middle of the night just shaking and just having these sweats. It was crazy, and never had this before. So I decided to take a year out and get myself healthy, fit, and back online. And in that time, my friend Tony, who's also a co-founder, we had 4 dogs between us, and 3 of them actually got cancer, all under the age of 10. And I'm like, this is crazy. So I started looking into what could be causing it, and I started looking at their food, and I was a little bit annoyed at myself because I never once went, I'm going to check what ingredients is on the side of the packets that I'm feeding my dog. And it was when I was reading that, I'm like, there's got to be something here about this food that I'm feeding my dog. So I did a lot of research, started looking into it, and that's when I reached out for people like yourself and Wendy, who's our wonderful vet, and started saying, hey, look at this. Do you think this could be a cause of many chronic diseases in dogs?
It is, and that led to our classic conversation in that pub beer garden in Brighton, where you said to me very pointedly, do you think that food can both kill dogs and save them? And I was like, yes. Do you think you could design a food that would save dogs' lives? And I was like, hell yes. And do you want to set up a company with us? I was like, stop talking, you had me at hello. Let's do it.
And that's how we met. So, moving on. So, Rowan, let's talk a little bit about you, because I don't know if many people know about your history and where you've come from. So what's your title right now?
So, up until very recently, I ran a functional medicine practice which focused predominantly on diagnostic nutrition, but we treated people holistically. Now, what does that mean? That's a term that everybody uses all the time. It sounds very woolly mumble jumbo. It isn't. Actually, it's a very strategic and very approachable way of looking at any medical condition. Whether you're doing it to remove just basic boring symptoms, or whether you're looking at it to improve performance, like we look after some of the world's best poker players, athletes, etc. So realistically,
so how did you get there? So you didn't start off in nutrition, did you?
Oh golly, no. I worked in the city for probably 15 or 20 years. I had what would have been classically termed as a burnout, but because I'm slightly retentive and always Sherlock Holmes about this, when somebody said, oh, just rest more, sleep more, don't do this, I was like, do you know, this all sounds a bit fishy. It sounds to me like you don't have any answers. So I ended up retraining in functional medicine and functional nutrition, primarily to actually save my own health. And then when I saw what was feasible, I was like, wow, we have to bring this to the UK. And I don't know anybody who wouldn't benefit from this.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
including yourself.
Absolutely. And then that's how we met, and you advised me and helped me get back on the merry
road. And look at you now.
Fat as fit.
Half Tarzan and half commercial, half entrepreneur.
Yes. So you got into the nutritional part of it because of your own health. How many people do you think actually now look at their dogs and have gone through that same path where they've actually themselves had maybe some sort of chronic disease or not felt great about themselves, and then suddenly started looking at nutrition because they're not getting the answers from their doctors?
Well, To be honest, I don't think I can recall meeting a single person who doesn't have at least one symptom. And this is my number one rule, is that symptoms are super common, but they're never normal. So if you've actually painted yourself into a corner where you go, well, it's just part of getting old, or it's just, no, don't accept that. You deserve better. You truly deserve better. And it's totally achievable without changing too much. And this is where the nutrition part comes in. Why? Because nutrition is typically about 70% of the jigsaw. So when people say, oh, it's just my genetics, there's probably 2 or maybe 3 diseases which are purely genetically driven. Everything else is hugely influenced by nutrition. And autoimmune diseases, I think there's 128 that are currently being investigated. And here's a shocking statistic for you, Mark. Every single autoimmune disease investigated has 100% correlation, not causation, with leaky gut.
And leaky gut, we've spoken about this loads, but let's just go quickly about what leaky gut is. So leaky gut is caused by things like lectins, by gluten, and
stress.
And stress. Okay. So if you've got any
exercise.
So any of those 4 things can cause leaky gut. So the likelihood of most people having some sort of leaky gut is pretty high.
Well, if you've got any kind of food intolerance, you've got leaky gut. That's pretty much.
When we talk about food intolerances, they could be very subtle signs, don't they? They don't have to have suddenly your neck's closing up or anything like that. I mean, food intolerances can be what? Dry skin?
Yes.
Sleeping issues?
Yes, that can also trigger your immune system. It could be some kind of discomfort when you eat something.
Headaches?
Bloatedness.
Yeah.
Mood swings. I've seen loads of people who have had some kind of psychological dis-ease, shall we call it, and they've said whether they're bipolar, whether they've had multiple personality disorders, which is not something we specialise in at all, but inevitably there's been a huge food component in that, grains specifically, and quite often they have the autoimmune part of that, which is celiac.
So when you are dealing with your clients, or have in the past, everyone loves a quick win. Everyone loves a quick win.
Oh, for sure.
So if you said, like, for example, I used to get, I couldn't remember stuff, surprisingly even worse than I am today. Clarity of thought, headaches, I used to get tons of headaches.
Yeah.
Up the neck, like stress up the neck, all these things, which I fortunately, touch wood, very rarely have those issues now. And I think, I'd say, for me personally, 95% of that's becoming changing my diet.
Yeah.
I'd say it was even more than that. I'd say 95% from that to me is changing my diet. Along with a much more of a holistic view, like you say, things like I do meditation, I do exercises, I try and eat as clean as possible. So when you're dealing with your clients, is there some like quick wins, because we all love a quick win. Then you go like, here's 5 things that people could take away from this conversation today, and you go, if you do these 5 things, and just stick at it for, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Like we do with dogs, we say, when you move off processed food and put them onto a species-specific diet, you'll see a difference with them within weeks, like their stools.
Oh, sometimes days. So the way I look at it, the 5 areas that you can get your biggest quick wins are, if you just break it down into the acronym DRESS: diet, rest, exercise, or that should really be more appropriately suitable movement. We'll come back to each one of these. So diet, rest, exercise or movement, stress reduction, and that goes across 4 areas, and supplementation.
Obviously we can't go through all of it, so do you want to do your top level on each
Yeah, just one thing for each one.
Yeah.
So diet. I am, and we have recently changed our approach with all clients, further to Dr. Stephen Gundry's amazing book out there, The Longevity Paradox, which is totally transforming the way we look at diet, food, and how it interacts with our bodies. If people wanted to actually pick a copy of that up, we're not affiliated with it, we're sharing this with you. Why? Because it works. In 100% of the people who've used it, they've seen a dramatic difference in skin, mood, weight, sleep. So longevity paradox, basically focus a lot more on leptin-free vegetables and smaller amounts of protein and very good quality fats.
So lectins being, just give an example, is that the nightshade plants?
Lectins are an ancient type of plant protein which were originally almost like an insecticide to protect them from insects. So to stop them being eaten. Stop them being eaten.
So it's almost like a poison.
Yeah, almost. Now, for us, we're much bigger than insects. What does that mean? We can tolerate them, but actually it leads to subtle, underlying, aggravated, prolonged, chronic problems.
Okay, thank you.
Like IBS.
Right, okay.
Lots of people have IBS. Frankly, we've never seen IBS not clear up in 3 to 4 days, even when people were scheduled for surgery.
So avoiding lectin.
If I was to say to somebody, sorry Mark, if I was to say to somebody, these are the 3 things you want to focus on: cut lectins out, cut grains out, put in loads of leafy vegetables and starchy vegetables in the evening.
So that comes to the next question, obviously, with quick wins, and I know we've got the other 4 points to cover, but
yep.
While we're on this, one of the questions I get asked quite often is, how can we create a meal which is really easy for people just to do, not like I'm going to have to spend 4 hours preparing?
Oh, if you're going to keep it super simple, firstly, I always fast 1 meal of the day. It just gives my...
So when you say fast 1 meal a day, does that mean... I typically, this is what I do, I don't know if you're similar, I'll eat at 6 o'clock at night, I try not to eat any later than that, and I won't eat until about 12 o'clock. So I've got that, 18 hours worth of fasting? Is that similar sort of thing?
Yeah, I do that. I do 2 meals a day, 1 an early lunch, 1 an early dinner.
Is there any reason why somebody shouldn't do that?
If somebody's got some really serious adrenal issues going on, this isn't intended as medical advice, this is just a friendly helping hand from us at Bella+Duke, then I would suggest eating a little bit more regularly at first.
And when you shorten that eating window, what happens to the body? So say I'm fasting for that 18 hours, what's happening within the body?
Ooh, well, our American friends would call it autophagy, we'd call it autophagy. What happens is your body goes, we need some food. So what it does is it goes and it does this thing where it eats it cleans up in the cells. Autophagy is from the Greek meaning self-eating, and ultimately what happens is it tidies up the cells, and if you do it for long enough, it can even explode cancerous cells or potentially cancerous cells through a process called apoptosis, which we won't go into.
No. So part of the challenge today with today's society is we have fridges, we have freezers, and we can go and eat whenever we want. And often when you think you're hungry, actually you're thirsty.
Yeah.
So one little hack I like to do is one, keep my brain busy, but 2, drink lots of water.
Well, it's interesting you say that. Lots of people say to me when they're starting out, oh, but what can we have for snacks to keep my blood sugar up? It's like, if you don't pump your blood, sorry, there was a connection issue. It wasn't me speaking. If you don't pump your blood sugar up, it will never fall. So maintaining low insulin is key for everything. It lowers inflammation. It's one of the biggest wins. People, as you and I have often discussed, frankly, this whole concept of counting calories is a huge stress and a load of nonsense. It does work, but you're looking at 5% of the marks. Focus on insulin, there's 95% of the marks.
Well, I'll give you yesterday, I had a fasting day yesterday, so on a fasting day I'll not eat until about 5-6 o'clock. This is what works for me. And I'll only eat 600 calories within that one meal on that day. But I ran 7 miles and I went mountain biking last night, and my energy did not drop at all. And this is somebody who used to eat pork pies all the time, smoke less and drink, and I used to be up and down having headaches, and now my body's like, I'm 45, I'm actually healthier now and fitter now than I was when I was 30.
Oh, for sure, I am way happier, healthier and fitter than 10 years ago.
So we spoke about fasting, and we spoke about, so quick wins for quick meals you can do So I know quite often you come in and you bring your salad and your kippers.
Yeah, mackerel.
Your mackerel. What else can we do? Which is quick wins for people to do.
Super easy. Lots of super healthy, green, clean salad with loads of olive oil. I like to lather mine in sea salt and black pepper. Jane's asking a question about turmeric. We're going to come to that in a moment. So that's an easy thing, and then with a moderate amount of protein. So many people have been lured by this caveman diet and things like that. We're seeing some really interesting data. Less protein is healthier.
So like a big bowl of salad with just maybe a different type of protein each day. It doesn't have to, if you're not into, if you're not
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
And for the evening, similar, or do you do more rice and a meal? Or
I would have a load of steamed broccoli and asparagus, and maybe some spinach and sort of more olive oil, and then a really healthy, moderate amount of protein.
Okay. And to be fair, I tried the steaming thing, and I went, it tastes so bland to me. So what I did, I started just playing around with adding things like flavours and stuff like that, just to make it more tasty.
Yeah, I mean, you can still steam it and then add flavours.
Right, okay. I haven't got that bit yet.
Like lemon juice and apple cider vinegar
yeah.
and black pepper and chilli and things like that. All loads of fun stuff.
Ooh. So okay, so we spoke about that part of it. Then the other, you wanted to come on the turmeric, or is that going to be the final?
So Jane was asking about turmeric. Is it the wonder drug? Okay, so turmeric is a wonder drug in many respects, but it depends what you're using it for. Actually, the active compound in turmeric is something called curcumin. Curcumin is super anti-inflammatory. I think there's over 1,000 papers at the moment looking at it for anti-cancer trials. You can lower inflammation. They've shown that actually, and when I say they've shown, let me qualify that, there are hundreds of peer-reviewed medical papers showing that the active compound of turmeric, curcumin, is at least as effective in an anti-inflammatory format as most non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, so like ibuprofen, aspirin, those things.
Well,
so thank you, Mother Nature.
yeah, and you can't even get ibuprofen apparently in some countries. They've just banned it.
Have they?
Yeah.
Well, let's not go there.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to get assassinated
No,
by big
absolutely
pharma. Somebody's watching.
This
is public, Mark. This is public.
So okay, so just going back, also you remind me about the meal stuff. So I can go and get a tin of pretty good quality sardines if there's such a bad thing, because you don't fish farm them, and I can get a salad and it costs me £2.
Yeah, done.
And you go, wow, that's cheaper than any sandwich bar.
In fact, I had a delicious lunch actually with a very good friend of mine on the beach yesterday, which involved sardines, which I think like €6 for a bamboo stick. And I know you're watching. They were great sardines.
So the other pillars that we were chatting about, so we obviously covered nutrition.
So yeah, diet is where you can pick up the biggest wins quite often.
And we're talking, like if you do an elimination diet, like if you got rid of, you said grains, you said lectin foods, and I'm sure we can link to somewhere that here's your top LinkedIn plants, LinkedIn, lectin, famous potato on LinkedIn, lectin plants and stuff like that. We can actually put it in the show notes and all that kind of stuff.
Well, what I would do is really, I know people want a quick win, Mark, but actually for this to stick and for people to actually really make life-changing decisions, it often pays to understand why. So whilst I want to always give people quick wins, I would always love to empower them with the information so they go, and rather than it being a long list of do's and don'ts, which is a bit boring and a bit school, we actually go, hey, this is the way, inspired through education, read The Longevity Paradox, truly life-changing.
Mm-hmm. And so the next thing is then we come on to
rest. And for that, realistically, sleep. Is your room dark? Is it noise-free? If not, are you using earplugs? Is it and when I say dark, you shouldn't be able to see your hand in front of your face. And are you keeping normal times, as in regular times, to sleep?
Cool room as well. Try and keep it as cool as possible.
Yeah.
And turn off blue lights or no screens if you can, but an hour before.
Yeah.
Or red lights or blue blockers or whatever. All these different things. But just change your routine and wind down.
When people say, I don't need as much sleep, you do.
So I typically work optimised at about 6.5 to 7 is where I sleep.
Yeah.
You know, I feel pretty good on that. And I track mine on the Aura Ring. If you've never seen that, that's the Aura Ring there. So it's a way of tracking your sleep if you get all geeky and that kind of stuff. And you can change, then you can measure your heart rate and all these kind of things with it.
Okay, so we've done diet, and I almost don't kind of like the word diet because people think it's short term. Actually, this shouldn't be just for bikini. Really, if you want to get the benefits and actually feel amazing, just make it lifestyle.
Yeah.
So rest, sleep, exercise. Whoa.
So what do you do exercise?
As little as possible.
Okay.
No, for real. There's an amazing book called Dr. Doug McGuff called Body by Science. He advocates as little but as intense as possible. That's not high intensity intervals, it's slow intensity. I've seen people super transform on that. What's much more important is focusing on movement rather than exercise. These are just, when I say much more important, this is where we've seen people get the biggest marks the quickest.
So things like stretching, yoga.
Walking even, walking your dog. If you're watching this, it's hopefully because you've got a dog. And if you haven't, please go and get one.
But pay for it.
Yeah, or adopt one.
Yeah.
And
I meant don't nick it.
Where did that come from?
Northeast.
They're not dog nappers. So easily the easiest wins. Going lectin-free, sugar-free, grain-free, loads of vegetables, adding loads of really cool vegetables, dialing in your sleep, getting some quality, consistent movement. Mm-hmm. If you're doing 45 minutes to an hour each day with your dog, you're getting enough movement to create lymphatic drainage and for you to get all of the proper nutrients put into your joint articulations. If you then decide to do something funky like some yoga or some Pilates, or once a week you do a heavy weight session, golden.
And we've also just got those little trampoline things in the office.
I love those.
So just go, shake it off like a duck.
Yeah, I like what you've done there.
Yeah.
I've actually got one of those in my office at home.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. Kismet likes to jump in. She watches me and barks as I go up and down.
Like that advert.
Yeah, exactly. So that's that. Stress reduction. This is super.
So stress reduction, you've got mental.
Yeah.
And you've got chemical.
Yes. The way I look at it is mental, emotional, environmental. So that's chemicals you're putting on your skin.
Yeah.
That was my putting on your skin emoji. Did you feel it? Great. Internal, food. Food can be a huge stressor. And then basically
Wi-Fi or electronics, all that kind of stuff.
That'll go in the environmental one. And then what we've got basically is physical, because the majority of people that I've seen over the last 5 years in this functional medicine clinic are over-exercising, thinking that they're getting healthier. Never confuse exercise, fitness and health.
Mm-hmm. And one of the great sayings I learned from last year, you get a saying, you go, oh, I remember that, that's a really good one.
Yeah.
Is never believe everything you think.
Oh, I like that.
That's always stopped me, so I'm always going, am I just playing an automatic thing in my head here, or do I need to stop that and go, where's that coming from? So understanding where a lot of your thoughts are coming from will certainly help me on my journey of the next level of not getting so...
And what's your meditation of choice?
Me, so I do lots of things. So at the moment, stupidly, I entered into a Spartan race. So I'm ridiculously training that and putting stresses on the body. So I actually find that I go off running now, and I just clear my brain. Some of these thoughts just come into my head. When I'm not doing that, I do a lot of meditation, just sitting there 10 minutes in the morning. I like to stretch, so every morning I'm doing stretching. So I'm nothing crazy. I just do 15 minutes of stretching every morning. Close my eyes, and I just find that totally clears my brain. And I got a thing called a Peloton bike, which just to bang out 20 minutes of HIIT exercise, which is high intensity, just that short period. And also I do 20 minutes, 30 minutes every couple of days of weightlifting, like you say, just the Body by Science approach. And I just approach that, and that's
cool.
And that's what I do every single day. What about yourself?
Well, my meditation of choice is Holocene.
Yes, that's
at the moment. which is awesome. It's £20. It's the best £20 you can possibly invest in your Swede. If you wanted to actually do that, it's an app on your phone. It's astonishing. It's undoubtedly the number one most potent tool we've seen in the practice over the last 4 years.
Can you do it walking, or do you have to be like rested or sitting down? Or
you need to be sitting down. Why? Because it puts you into something called waking delta. Delta is normally the brainwave associated with very deep sleep, when your brain does all of this it goes through a detoxification process, and then it actually starts looking at the day's events. It's really important for neuroplasticity. It's awesome. I love it. I do it every morning.
Brilliant. And just sets it for the day, isn't it?
It does.
Just absolutely does it.
And this is why I can be focused and present with you, Mark,
yes,
right
absolutely.
now.
Yes, absolutely. Not looking at my phone at all.
Okay, so that's stress reduction. Really, if you can look at the 4 areas and you go, okay, mental, emotional, gain some meditation and some outdoor time. Cool.
Some me time, and don't feel bad about it. Just
feel good about it.
Yeah, absolutely, you will.
Yeah. So that's your big win on there. Environmental. Look at what you're putting on your skin. What you put on your skin is absorbed quicker than the food you put in.
Perfume, spray, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If you're going to put food on, you should always put it on your clothes, not on your skin.
Yeah.
There's a little tip there.
And then obviously, so we've covered mental, we've covered environmental, we've talked about this. If anybody wants to go into this in greater detail, please. Jane, what's the app called? HoloSync, and it's by Centrepoint. And Centrepoint is with an E on the end. So HoloSync. There's 7 different programs. They have slightly cheesy titles like Attract Money or something like that.
I was going to say, it's not the most like modern looking app, but it works.
Is.
It works. Well, I downloaded it and I went,
okay.
Nice fonts.
Okay.
But, it is actually, the science behind it's definitely worth...
There's 20 years of data on it. I've seen, in fact, I met the person who created it in LA about 4 years ago, Bill Harris. Truly left a legacy for positive there. So we've covered mental, we've covered environmental.
Obviously nutrition.
Nutrition really gets, if you stop putting things that stress your body into your mouth, your body will be a lot less stressed. That goes without saying. And then physical, just appropriate amounts of exercise. So that leads us to supplements, Mark, number 5.
Yeah. So supplements are what they say on the tin, aren't they? They're basically, it's a supplemental part of, it's not to replace.
I like what you've done there.
Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. Just kudos to you. Exactly. People often confuse supplements as in, if I do this, I don't need to do that. But hang on, supplements should contribute to your diet. Then the classic question is, why do I need supplements if I'm eating all this healthy food? Well, couple of reasons. One is your food isn't as nutrient dense as it used to be a few hundred years ago. 2 is basically you live either in a town or you're close to roads and you're getting exposed to a whole host of like either pathogens or pollutants that you wouldn't have done originally. So the more you can support your body with that means that you can detoxify quicker and thrive. So this ultimately is very much our approach to food. Use an evolutionary correct template and use as much modern science as you can to keep you as healthy and as happy as you can.
And one thing, just to wrap this all up, is the one thing you've always said to me is you can't start the journey unless you know where you're at. So when you hear, and it's dangerous when you hear somebody say, I use this diet and it worked for me. It might have worked for them because of their hormones were different, their genetics are different. So what other things could people quickly do if they wanted to do some testing, for example, to find out where they are? What is allergies worth doing? Is it not?
Ooh, this is really interesting. So the number one test, and I guess we can raise labs for anybody who wants these, so they would need to contact us. Is the number one test is we like to do a stool pathogen test. Why? Because most people's underlying issues and symptoms are driven by some kooky bacteria they've been exposed to.
And it's great fun trying to catch that jobby.
Right.
It's live, isn't it?
Yeah, absolute damn. That's just one thing. that I would address with everybody before I even say, oh, there's lots of nice to haves like food intolerances and allergies, and the hormone report is amazing.
So what's that report called? The stool? What's that?
It's a stool test. We've got labs that we work with based in the UK who have some of the best technology in the world. They actually, so that can be done.
So that could give you a good starting place, and it's worth the investment.
Yeah, it is. Unless you've got a specific, really kind of chronic symptom, the first thing I would do is have a reset month.
What would that look like? Cut out dairy, I'm assuming, cut out...
It would look exactly like the longevity paradox protocol. So if somebody was to read the longevity paradox, it's a really easy read, but ultimately I would look at the quality of protein rather than the quantity. I would look at lots of really cool vegetables like, artichokes and asparagus and broccoli, all of which will feed your gut microbiota, your gut microbiome, improve your immune system, and stop stressing it with grains. Now, that's my opinion. We've seen it work every time. In no way are we trying to tell people what they do with their lives. We're simply giving you this information, and what you do with it is up to you.
Yeah, and even if you try it for a month, pretty sure you notice the difference.
Wow. You'll notice a difference in a week. As said, one of the main symptoms that people come to us with is and they've even forgotten they've had it, is IBS. They go, oh, we've got some IBS of diverticulitis or, one of these families. I've never, ever seen it not go away in under a week. Ever.
Wow.
Just by cutting out grains and lectins and lowering the sugar, so you focus on quality vegetables and a bit quality protein.
Right. Well, thanks, Rowan.
My pleasure, Mark. Thanks for asking all these questions to help people.
And if you, obviously we haven't been able to answer your questions right now because often we get distracted by the questions. But what to do is, if you've got any questions we haven't covered today, if you enjoyed this, we'll do it again in the next week or two, and we'll make sure that we cover as many of the questions that we can.
Okay, and just before we do go, the lovely Jude McCoy said, I know it's not practical for B&D to produce human meals. We say that. But what about a wee recipe book of simple, healthy, species-appropriate recipes? Well, we could do that, but to be honest, I would just be standing on the magnificent shoulders of Stephen Gundry and David Perlmutter and all those people. I would say...
So let's link to them from either here or or in the post, so people can...
For sure, let's do that.
Beautiful. Great.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? We're here and happy to help.